So for a review in progress for GHOSTWIRE Tokyo, I was a little underwhelmed the first session I played with it, about 3 or 4 hours. I think I was expecting more, which is not the game's fault, but it is probably a fault of the game's marketing that made it seem like it was going to be maybe more of like a thriller, more of like a, when you think of from the creator of The Evil Within, and we're going to be harnessing all of the PS5's power. I guess I thought it'd be a bit more intense, the combat would be a bit more intense, and it kind of seemed like everything was very laid back, and it wasn't scary, it was more like spooky, and it kind of wasn't even spooky. After the opening bit with a few jump scares and some scary moments, once they kind of set the stage for the story, it was very, very casual. It was a lot of just sort of going around the map, doing tiny side quests, similar to, say, the ones in Lightning Returns, if you've ever played that, of like, but way less so. More like, talk to the spirit, something happened, and then you go take care of it. And one of the drawbacks I felt was that you rarely ever figure things out for yourself in this game. This game is very, very modern gaming. Hold your hand. We're going to tell you exactly how to do it. We're not going to really let you be creatively about how to do it either. If you are going to go get up somewhere, you're going to need to do it the way we want to. Eventually, you get the ability to float in this game, which is awesome, the gliding. But it's not like Breath of the Wild gliding where, you can use that to your advantage for achieving a lot of the places it wants you to go. It's really similar to Spyro the Dragon in that sense of, we need you to get up there. How are you going to do it? But this game is very serious about if the way to get up there is using these like scaffolding, this automatic scaffolding, these platforms that are marked yellow, like the ladders are marked yellow, like Uncharted for how you get up. That's the way you're going to do it. You're going to hop on one, usually a series of those, press the button to go up, find a ladder. There's none of this like, just get up to a high building and float over there, which I guess could be too easy, but there's something that can be satisfying about creatively finding your own way up there. The combat is not very intense. I'm playing on the normal difficulty. Perhaps it would be better if I played on the harder one, but I think it just would become tedious because the combat is pretty samey. You get a small variety of attacks. They look nice. They feel pretty good. And similar to Doom, when the enemies are just about to be killed, they get into like a stun animation. You can go up and you can like upgrade so you can reach into them and rip out resources from them and kill them in a pretty satisfying way. You can have a bunch of enemies stunned at one time, and then you can kind of do that to all of them at once. The upgrades are pretty satisfying once I got into those. I was pretty underwhelmed the first 3 hours, and then when I came back today to play and played another 3 or 4 hours, I just all of a sudden really got hooked into it, where I was just loving all the side quests. I was loving ticking those things off. All the things that kind of scare me away from playing like an Ubisoft open world game, Assassin's Creed or Just Cause or what else do they have? Far Cry. Just like checkbox ticking. I really actually clicked into this, and I found that I probably played about 5 hours of it today and really loved it. I was totally into the flow of it. I was appreciating the kind of laid back tourism of it, because it really feels like an authentic Japan to me, and I'm enjoying that part. And the visuals and the atmosphere are pretty great. The music floating around is pretty nice. The combat's pretty enjoyable. I had mentioned earlier, like I'm playing a lot of Elden Ring. And Elden Ring is so intense because everything is so challenging. And I tried to find an alternative to that, like a palate cleanser, and I picked Tunic, which I thought visually looks very cute and laid back, but it's not. It's a very challenging game. It's cute, but it's following the Dark Souls format. So that's not a great palate cleanser for Elden Ring, is more Dark Souls. So this one has actually been perfect for that, because it's still an open world experience, but it's a lot more linear because they sort of funnel you to certain areas, even though you can't just kind of go off and find different side stuff. I've never gone after the side stuff as much in probably any game as this one, because the side stuff is kind of feels like the main chunk of the game. I would recommend playing it that way before you move on to the sort of second chapter of it. it's called Maze something. Before you do that, I would really, really recommend doing all the side stuff. I did it. It gets your character really powerful. You can do upgrades. Like I would definitely recommend upgrading the glide time as soon as you can. And then I would upgrade like how fast you can charge your weapons. And yeah, I would stick with that. And maybe how fast you can fire them. Something I didn't realize, when you charge up your attack, it doesn't use more ammo. So charging is actually a really, really useful action. And then they actually do a pretty good job of balancing out the different attacks, because even if you're just kind of spamming like light attacks without charging them, they tend to do a lot of damage. So there's a point I got to where they really switch up the gameplay. They take away your abilities and they force you into what is going to look like, oh, a lot of stealth. Now all of a sudden you're defenseless against these enemies. But I just ran through it and it took like 5 minutes. I thought it was going to be a whole other sort of chapter, but yeah, from the time that they took away the powers and I had to escape and you get reunited with the powers, it took like 15 minutes. I checked the clock when I was on my streaming recording software. So, you know, the game is a bit uneven, and I think I would feel maybe a bit ripped off if I bought it at full price. God, I hate saying that because I know a lot of people work on these games and they just pour so much of themselves into it. And I think that this game, you can feel the heart in it. It's a really sweet game. I mean, it kind of has like a bit of tenderness and care all over the place. And I think that you can feel the care and the passion that the people making this put into it. And they really made something unique. And I'm about 8 hours in. And if you're looking for a modern version of Spyro the Dragon, or like Banjo-Kazooie, you want some very light platforming, very light action, lots of collectibles, and just lots of... They're hardly side quests. There's not really a lot of story between them. But if you're interested in like yokai stuff, onis, and all the sort of Japanese fantasy and Japanese history and current Tokyo, and I've read that later on you go to some suburban places. If you want like a virtual tourism with light elements of action, open world exploration, collecting, that has equal parts Spyro the Dragon, equal parts Doom. It's like a very light version of Doom crossed with Spyro and those 90s platforming collectathons. Then you're going to find a lot to like here. I found sort of the main stuff with the hand-holding not as compelling, but because the rest of the game is so breezy, it really fits. So after a few hours, I really got into this. So whether it's worth you dropping down, the full enchilada for it, keep in mind, even though this is an exclusive for the PS5 and the PC now, Bethesda, this is published by Bethesda, and Bethesda's owned by Microsoft. So it must be fucking killing Microsoft to see this debut on the PS5. And I guess they just were not able to get around that contract. So I would assume eventually it's going to be on Game Pass. But if what I'm describing to you sounds up your alley, then I think it could be worth the full price. If you want a bit more challenging or kind of deep combat and deep and satisfying combat, I think I'd hold off a bit. But it's once I settled into the rhythm of the game and enjoyed it for what it was, I really was surprised by how much I enjoyed playing it today, and there were a few surprises here and there. So I've really turned around on this game. I'm going to be doing videos like this after the end of every session of games that I play now. And I'm going to upload the video to YouTube. I'll call it Review in Progress number whatever. And they'll be interspersed with the videos of Let's Plays. And I'll also be it'll be maybe like a too long didn't watch stream summary, review, reaction, and also be putting the audio on my podcast because I paid for a year of that goddamn a 90s Kid podcast. So I might as well fill it up with stuff. So if you watch this, thanks for watching. We're streaming on Twitch and, on the internet. A 90s Kid. Bye.